chat here a link to the meeting minutes from prior meetings, and then also a link to the draft text for the infographic based on everyone's feedback so far. The goal for the meeting today is going to be to share the latest iteration of the text for final comments, and then also to share a mock-up of the infographics that we've been working on and kind of walk through those a little bit and get some feedback on that. Our goal is with all of this to, by the end of this month, to have a version 1.0 to share back with everyone so that we can start getting some more feedback beyond this group and also some piloting of implementation. We have about an hour for this meeting. The meeting will be recorded and we'll post it onto the OpenOx community page as usual. The co-chairs for this subgroup, Leith Greenslade and Liz Igaga. Unfortunately, Liz is not going to be able to join us for today's meeting, but has sent her comments, which we'll share throughout. So with that, maybe I'll hand it over to you, Leith, and we can jump into going through some of the material.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining during Northern Summer. So I know last call, we had a lot of text edits. You can see in the link to the Google, a lot of people weighed in, but I think we need to move things forward. So I'd be keen to sort of unveil, Mike, Rebecca's latest draft of the way it looks.
Sounds good. I'll go ahead and share a screen here. One sec.
Because I think it's looking great. And Rebecca, you might want to jump in here as well.
And maybe I'll comment just really quickly on overall layout, like what you're looking at here. There's an iteration of this at the last page of the text edit document, that Google Doc. You can see it there. What we're looking at here is how we plan to build this on a website. So there will be a static version of the infographic. You can think about it like this. There are blank spaces in here, which we will fill in once we have final content. But what we hope to do on the website.
Oh, it's good. We have to.
What we hope to do on the OpenOx website, we will have a page where users can actually build their own infographic. They can pick and choose from these different content topics that are the small red boxes kind of bordering on the left and the bottom of this page I'm showing here. And they can actually drag and drop them into these pre-specified fields of the infographic. They can change the color theme. They can change the kind of appearance of the people or the style, and then also add in their own logos here. We're hoping that this will allow people to kind of meet the local context a little bit better. Everybody wants probably a slightly different version of this, but we're hoping we can agree on the fixed content and then allow people to modify after that. And then you would be able to then generate a static version that you could then print or email or do whatever you want to do with that. Bob, I see your hand. Give me one sec. And then the last piece on here is that we're planning to make some version of like a QR code that would be on a sticker with something that just says something very high level. Learn more about pulse oximetry, or SpO2 maybe lower or higher depending on many factors. Something that would take you to the online version of the infographic that might be a little bit easier to disseminate, that would not be static and potentially get out of date if evidence evolves. This would always link to the most current version. So again, this is kind of what that web page more or less is going to look like, is 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 look like,
Mike, there's something going wrong with your connection.
look like, is 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 look like.
There you go. Well,
good job of repeating yourself. Well done.
Yeah, that was way too much Mike at the mic. So my hand is lowered. Mike, my concern on what you're now projecting, which is number 3, but it may also exist on number 2, is that we are not, manufacturers, to my knowledge, have not considered the Great Toe to be a good site, and we don't have anything reflecting that on the right-hand side. but there are multiple other sites on the foot. So maybe have the graphic artist on number 3 fix that. It also exists on number 2, and I don't know what number 4 looks like, but just make sure that the probe placement matches the routine use. Sorry,
Look like is 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 look like is
Mike,
look like is
Mike's
look
got a
like is
challenge
look
with
like
his
is look like
connection.
is.
Mike, you might want to come back in, come out and come back in.
yeah, it's not echoing, it's just repeating. It's weird.
Yeah, okay, Mike's gonna go out and come back in. In the meantime, Rebecca, you got that note on the images that the foot may be not the best picture?
Yes, excellent. And that's exactly the kind of feedback we were hoping to have right now. So that's perfect. We will definitely make that adjustment. And then the other thing I'll point out is that we were thinking it would be helpful to have one illustration that depicted an adult scenario, which is what is on the 4th slide or page, which we can see later. And then anyway, one adult scenario and then one neonate scenario.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Just, yeah, make sure there's not a disconnect. Okay, thank you.
So that's
And
that's
actually,
great.
since we have a moment, it sounds like maybe can you just describe better placement, not the toe? What would it be better to illustrate that with?
Great toe is no good. The large toe.
Okay.
Right. So another toe works just fine, but they typically have a wrap sensor. It's rare that you would be using a clip on a baby, or in this situation, an infant.
Okay.
Rather, it would be on a larger child, and then you could get away with that in surgery. So otherwise, if you look at your drawing, look at the drawing panel where there are 4 panels to it, where it says where to place the probe. The bottom right-hand one is the better approach for an infant or neonate, where it's a wrap that goes around that part of it. So if you want to stick with an infant, and I support it very much because that's what my heart is, I would use a wrap, not
Great.
clip.
Okay, we'll make that adjustment. Thank you so much.
You're
Mike's back. Mike, are you back? Can we hear you?
Look like is look like is look like is look
Oh,
like is look like is look like is look like is look like is
Still
look like.
doing something funny. I've never heard that before on Zoom. Okay, Mike will figure it out, but just note his comments in the chat. The foot wrap sounds like a good one. But there's some other comments in the chat. Let's just pick them up as we go. So Jeffrey Feldman, you've got a question about a message. Can you just come on?
Sure. Just it was a small comment, but in the QR code slide, there was something about since the true SPO2 may be different from the yeah. So so the SPO2 is the SPO2. That's what you're reading. But what people want is the SAO2. Should that be SAO2? Would that reinforce the concept that we're trying to get across, or do you think that's misleading?
Boy, it's absolutely the case that is our reference, SAO2. And it is the reference for which manufacturers claim to benchmark their accuracy. So I don't think we're not going to find a lot of people drawing blood gases. Right. And so that's why that QR sticker needs to declare the manufacturer's accuracy performance against a blood SAO2 value.
Yeah, and just note Mike's comments in the chat as well, agreeing with you, Bob.
Well, that's rare. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. So can we just scroll up again, Rebecca? Is there anything else you wanted to voice over? Any issues you had? Now the text here is this. This is just picking up the final we got to last time we met with the text. It's still not there. I think is the feeling it's still a little too wordy, Rebecca, and could be shortened and simplified. What's your view on the text for a poster like this?
I agree. So there's maybe a couple of things I'll point out. So one is that right now this is set up on a A1 sized poster, which is fairly large. So each one of these individual boxes of text is roughly the size of an A4 page. So there's this, just to give people an orientation on the size of this piece. And then if we go up to the second page, the one thing I'll point out, and I think this is probably obvious to everyone, but we have a lot more content than we can actually fit onto one poster. I guess I just wanted to point that out. And the idea is that each of these boxes, while some of them don't have explanatory illustrations inside of them, they will. As the content gets finalized, we'll produce those illustrations too. So I guess I just wanted some awareness around that. We have more content than we can actually fit. Maybe that's okay because maybe people will want to pick and choose based on their context and environment. But so that's one piece. Overall, just we have a lot. And then it does still feel like quite a bit of text, even in each individual, if we're just talking about probe types or choosing an oximeter. So the more concise we can be, the better. We're imagining people in busy situations and scenarios. We kind of assume everybody is skimming. So the more concise we can be, the better.
It's a write-off. Let's just talk about that a little bit. Mike's agreeing too text heavy. We don't need two care and handling. We can certainly get that into one, right? So that would be my first thing is one care and handling. Let's just work it until we get it tight. And then the myths, could the myths be absorbed into another section? So we didn't have or do people feel it's important to have a standalone myth? Please feel free to come offline and just join the conversation.
I will pass on to Mike, since I can't seem to do it in the chat box, a paper coming out of Texas, or no, it's Colorado, that gives a nice overview on shortcomings. And it doesn't, it really goes into a nice list. And so I think there are some things that are myths are absolutely not the case. Like all fingernail polish isn't necessarily bad. So anyway, I think myths are helpful, but I think something that might as well be called shortcomings or are important, because sometimes it's helpful to actually move the sensor from one digit to another just to corroborate the value. So I think there are ways to cross-check a value of concern. I think that's the important thing. If you get a number that doesn't match what's going on clinically, the device may need to be double checked.
Okay, so I think Hallie's also agreeing with that. Some combination of myths and your and limitations, maybe with the new shortcomings, we can play around with that. Has anyone got objections to that? So we've already lost two of the boxes here. We're collapsing them.
Yeah, and so I'll send that paper to Mike, and maybe he'll agree.
You're on a roll. Can you make it a little bit, whoever's moving it around, is that you, Fifi? Can you zoom out again? Yeah. So this is A1. So the proposition is you get no choice but to have a really big poster, Rebecca. So people have to have capacity to print an A1. Is that right? If they want to hang this on the wall at the facility.
Well, the beauty of the A numbered format is that you could print this on any A size that you want. It's proportionally, you could print this whole thing on A4, but it's designed, it's readable. The text is all readable in a poster sized format, right? We're sort of designing for that context. If you printed this whole thing on an A4 sheet, it would fit, but then I'm not sure if that text would be readable. So yes, it's designed to be a poster size on the wall.
So at any one time, it fits 5 panels.
Mm-hmm. I think the idea was, and I think it's great for the group to discuss this as well. I think that we were figuring that optimal use is something that should be on, you know, it's sort of like optimal use is locked in place. That's on all the posters. And then there's these two optional fields. But maybe we can discuss that too, if that's a good plan. Basically, every poster would have optimal use, and then you could add two more.
Does everyone get that? So those three are set, the three optimal use panels are set, and you get an option to put two more in, and you can change over time as needed. Or you can have different, in the neonatal and NICU, you would have the one with the NICU, but if you had this poster in other parts of the health facility, it would look different, right? You can have different posters in different wards.
Yes, you could. And maybe we can just quickly look at the slide 4. So this was the adult illustration scenario.
Lovely.
Oh, great.
Right. And just in terms of the first one again, if people are concerned that mom's head on the first one is chopped off, that's been corrected. So mom's head is not chopped off in the latest iteration for people that are obsessive about those things. Richard's got a comment as well. Another suggestion for this collapsed box rather than shortcomings, common sense checks. How do people feel about that language? Well, we'll add it to the list to discuss, Richard. Thanks.
It's too many words. I realized when Bob said limitations, I thought, and then he described, you know, if the patient's sitting there talking to you and the O2 sat reads 70, you probably should have a different, you know, make some kind of change to get the correct value. It's too many words. I was trying to think of something.
Okay, that's okay. We'll throw it into the mix. There's a question from Azadeh. Do you want to voice that over?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the myth sessions, you say that it can never been too high, means that it won't show 80% if the person is 100, like it won't show 100% if there is a like an overestimation of 20%. This won't happen.
So let's go to the section where it says pulse oximeters can never be falsely high. Can everyone see that?
I think it's in the myths box.
Yeah, myth. Yeah.
Let's zoom in.
Number 1, pulse oximeter can never be falsely high. But based on the publication that we had in 2020, I read it in FDA in 2022, it can be up to 20% overestimation for dark people. Am I correct or wrong?
Look like.
Mike, you're going to have to use the chat. I think there's something funny with your machine, but if you can drop everything in the chat, I'm sure we'll promise you we'll raise it. It's in the myth section. Yep, we're in there now. But the question is this correct? Should it be more nuanced? We need to make clear it is a myth.
Yeah. Myth means that it can be happen or might happen or never.
Myth is something wrong, a wrong understanding.
Is there a section that says oximeter values can be erroneously high and low? So instead of putting in the myths, I'm thinking under cautions and warnings, maybe that will be clearer.
Yeah, I agree. It's confusing.
And so we can just delete it from here and move it to the caution.
Yeah, let's take this. We're not going to have a section called myths. It's going to be collapsed into another one anyway. But let's just note that. Rebecca, did you get that one?
Yes, I did.
Right. That's confusing. Needs to change. And then Mike's on it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's noted. Thanks for raising that. If there's anything else that jumps out at people on this call, that's why we're doing it. So it's great that you're finding these. Rebecca's just saying danger of trying to win myths with troubleshooting comments. Myths are truly incorrect understandings. Yeah, I know. So we're going to have to finesse this a little bit. I mean, I think actually there's a danger that myths box is misunderstood, all of it. So
yeah. because right now that I'm reading for part of myth, as any pulse oximeter can be placed anywhere on the body. So is it possible or not possible, or okay or not? Because just Bob said that the pulse oximeter for neonatal shouldn't be on a large foot toe, but it can be worked properly in others. So it's
Yeah,
confusing.
no, it's dangerously misleading, and people are busy and they're looking at things quickly and they don't see the title. So Hallie's weighed in on that as well. So we'll revisit that. Yeah, great. That's a great call. Okay. So let's just zoom back out again in terms of the overall architecture. We've reduced 2 boxes. Is there any other box people feel could be massaged or not, or they all need to be standalone, the ones we have left? We could just zoom out. Yeah, great. So we've got the big one that's set, optimal use, then probe types, choosing an oximeter, the neonates, I think we all agreed that needs to be standalone. Known limitations, which is going to become something else, merged with myths in some way, we'll handle that. Standalone best practices for clinical decisions, and then 1 box for care and handling. Do people feel that architecture there is pretty much set, or is there more refinement we can do? If we're not hearing any concerns, we're going to stick with that and modify that. That means there'll be these 3 optimal use set, and we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Will it be 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes to choose from. Mark?
Thanks, Lee. Just a few comments. And first of all, that suggestion about troubleshooting was really for a specific box around troubleshooting and not to try and relabel one of the current boxes. And I think this is a common issue when people can't get it to work, what to actually do, and look to see that you've got a light first, to look at alignment, to try a different site. So I think that that would be helpful, certainly as an option, that people could include that. The more specific comments, and I'm sorry I didn't get time to read this beforehand, I didn't realize it was available beforehand, but just a few comments. First of all, Bob's assertion that we shouldn't put a probe on the big toe of a child. I think it's the first time in my life I think I've heard that. Certainly at our institution, that is very commonly done. So Bob, I would love to see the evidence to support that. But and particularly if you're using a probe like this, child, which we commonly do in children, we would put on the big toe. But I think that your suggestion that we should show a wrap is actually a good idea. But you do get a pediatric clip that we would put commonly on a toe of a child, both for doing recordings in the emergency department, but also in the operating room. So a few other suggestions, once again, is that I think how to place the probe, I would put the 2 graphics the other way around. I think that the alignment of the probe should come before the air gap. I think that's how it is in the text, and that should just be aligned with that. I think this concept of these opposite each other should be at the top of that, the bullet point. So rather than correctly sized, I would put that second and put the fact that they need to be correctly aligned as the first point in that bullet. And I'll send you some more comments in the further. Thank you.
Can we just zoom in, Mark, make sure we got it? Which box are you talking about? The top one on the right?
Second box, optimal use.
How to place the probe.
Yeah, I think those 2 graphics need to be switched around. And I think the second paragraph of that, the second sentence should come first.
Get that, Rebecca?
Yes, I got it. Yes.
Switch the graphic on the second box and switch the
order of the bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's got it too. Great. And in terms of adding a new box troubleshooting, we'll take that into the conversation, Mark, and see what can be done. I'd love others to weigh in on that. If Mike, you have a view, or other people in the troubleshooting box. I do think it, when something's going wrong, you just want to go one place where you think you might find some answers.
Right.
You see
And
the-
that paper I supplied Mike might be a good start. And Mark, I understand my challenge is that it's manufacturer's documentation that shows directions for use. So, and on a larger child, absolute, a toe is great. It's just, I consider this probably a, maybe a 16-month-old at best. That's depicted.
Mark, any response?
Yeah, I was just writing in
Oh.
the text actually. The RAD-G, which is Masimo's global health device, only comes with one universal probe, which is a clip probe. And that's for all children up to 3 kilograms, down to 3 kilograms.
Very good.
They're making a new wrap though, aren't they? They're making a new neonatal wrap for the RAD-G.
Yes, we hope so, Leith.
Yeah,
Thanks.
due to demand requests from clinicians. Okay. Robin, do you want to share that verbally? Yes, good. Let's get to Robin, if you could say that out loud, that'd be great.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, as we go through this, because I'm not sure where this might be posted, but just words like emitter might be difficult for certain people. And if it's going to go, I don't know where it'll be posted, but I just want to make sure that, we look at kind of health literacy, readability. I don't know if we're doing, sometimes, I've looked at smog, using that as a mechanism for those kinds of
Yeah,
side.
light output is easily translated. Emitter may have difficulty.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there may be words that, depending on where this is posted, we should make sure that the words are easily understood. That's all.
Let's get into that. So if we can so we're going to come back to you with another iteration of this. We're going to we've set the architecture with a potential new troubleshooting box and collapsing two others, 4 into 2, but we'll come back to you on that. But let's close that conversation out and get now into the text. Mark's already made some edits to the second box in optimal use. But yeah, so it's too text heavy, everyone agrees. Now we need to get into refining it, both for the sheer amount of works and for clarity. My understanding is this will be in multiple languages. Can we confirm that at least it will be in French and Spanish? We will, yeah, it will be translated. But the English itself needs to be very, very simple, straightforward. And I know this is difficult for clinicians, but as non-clinical as it possibly can be and still be very accurate, because a lot of the people that this is intended for are pulse oximetry users in primary healthcare facilities across low resource settings that may or may not have medical qualifications, and we want to make it relevant for them as well. So yeah, we have to go through it with a fine tooth comb for simplicity of language, and that hasn't been done yet. So Rebecca, I'm not sure if you've got guidance on this, given you've done so many publications for these settings, but do you have people in-house that do that kind of English read through for simplicity?
We certainly can. Yeah. We definitely can do that.
And we can have another go as well. So, but Mike, do you want everyone else to look again at do you want to turn this text again, simplify the Google document, get rid of all the edits so it looks like this, and have people look at it again, or do you think that's overkill? Yeah, okay. So if you still have appetite to go back into the Google document and play around and simplify, go ahead. And then we'll pilot it. But the next version we bring back to you is going to have, a number of us will work on it. It's going to have much simplified and shorter text. Thanks, Asday, French and Arabic proofreading. And you also had a comment on the images. I mean, I think the images are lovely, but did you have a view on imagery, Asday, that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my team can make it much more beautiful in terms of face of the lady, the mother and baby if you want.
Well, this is the kind of style, this is a style issue. And Rebecca, these are the particular graphics that you use right there.
Very same style, but make it beautiful if you want.
You don't think they're beautiful?
And no, to be honest with you, I'm a visible minority with hijab, and I can call this lady ugly,
Oh,
to be very honest.
Beauty is in the eye of beholder.
sorry, Mark?
I just said beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Certainly is. But Mike's suggesting please send in some ideas. So if you have imagery that you like, that you think is more beautiful, please email it and we'll take a look. Yes, the style choice here is very conscious. The style is so that it's aligned very much with World Health Organization, but happy to look at other imagery if you have some you particularly like. And just in terms of the imagery, there'll be just one image on the main poster. Or how many images will there be, Rebecca? Just the baby and the adult? That'll be it? The big ones?
That's the current idea.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there will just be one main illustration other than the ones that are more explanatory, the smaller, explanatory ones.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for joining. Please send that article. And then Mike's just dropped the Illustrator files in so you can take a look at the imagery and where it's drawn from. Open Critical Care has a really, really amazing image library that's open access. It's very, very beautiful. I think so. But yes, in the eye of the beholder. Okay, so, and the bottom, can you just, the logo. So if you zoom in, you'll see at the bottom of the main one, there's room for logos. And this is just so, I think the open, what have we got? The open oximetry, is it? That is fixed, right? And then you'll have a choice of 1, 2, or 3 logos if you want to drop your institution in or something else.
That is the current plan. I also think, that space is available. So if there's need for more logos, I think more could fit there. But that's just, the idea is that it's placeholder space for logos.
And if you don't need it, you can just delete it and it's blank.
That's right. So it would just have the open oximetry on the left and then the QR code on the right for more information.
And the QR code goes to openoximetry.org.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So this is branded Open Oximetry plus whatever institution is showing it, which I think is nice. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat. I assume, Mike, your connection's still shaky. Jeffrey's asking about the size of the main graphic on the top left. It takes up a lot of space. I think visually that's for appeal, right? Rebecca, the imagery is what draws the eye.
Yeah, so the idea here is that, it's a poster on the wall. You need something to draw you in. But the other factor is that when we start putting in a lot of these boxes with smaller text in them, it can get a little overwhelming. Anyway, that's part of it too. We're just trying to balance those things. And then the third factor is that we are trying in some ways to standardize the size of these boxes so that we do have this drag and drop kind of scenario. So it's a combination of those factors.
Yeah. Certainly, I think anybody working in advocacy communications would say the imagery is really critical, that it is what draws the eye and it gets the attention, including the little imagery and the boxes there. And you said there'll be imagery in each of the boxes, right? So we're only seeing at the moment little hands and things in the optimal use, but every box will have a nice image.
That is correct.
Okay, terrific. Howard, you've got a comment in there. You said you heard something about evidence-based practices and appealing us to avoid such terminology. It's too vague. I agree totally with that. We're going to find a lot of phrases like that lurking in the text, and we will do our best to remove them. But did you want to say anything more about that, Howard?
Yeah, no, thank you. Because I'm a pulmonary and critical care, and we deal with sleep and a lot of outpatient, and so that term, part of this is kind of, yeah, so it's just too vague, and it's something that I guess in our other clinical fields we need to kind of look at holistically with the work in building on this work or connecting the dots. So yes, I just thank you for doing that, and thank you for removing that terminology.
Yeah, there's global health can be quite Orwellian, so we want to get rid of some of the silly language that means little. Okay, so let's spend some, if we could move to the next one, we've lurked on this page for a while. If we could just move to the next one. No, the one with the adult. Yeah. So everyone likes this picture, and everyone likes the title, Best Practices for Pulse Oximeters. That's the title of the whole thing, Best Practices for Pulse Oximeters. Okay. And Mike's just reminding us the final size, it will be TBD once we get the text all sorted out. Okay. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes left. I'm not sure if there's any other material things we can address. Sandy's mentioned, do we have any plain language experts? Sandy, Rebecca, whose team is putting this together, mentioned that they do have those experts, and we'll do a final look over of text. But Mike's also encouraging all of you to go once again into the Google, revisit it. And if you see anything that can be removed, just take another final edit. You're all welcome to do that. And you had another comment, I think, Sandy. Did we get all your comments? I hope so.
I have one short question for the how to place the probe, the one that is pointing in front of us. I can't see the differentiation between the correct one and incorrect one. Yes, exactly. What's the difference between right figure versus left figure? Correct versus incorrect. What's the difference?
It's trying to show you that there's a gap of air underneath. I think
okay.
it looks black there on the bottom of the finger.
Okay.
Maybe that needs to be clarified by the
Oh,
Maybe there needs to be a big arrow pointing
yeah,
right
for
to it.
sure.
Yeah.
Because I was guessing to play a game with my daughter to find what's the differentiation between these two graphs. It's very hard to find, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that's another great call. Brilliant. And Mike's saying we'll make the gap bigger and add an arrow. Great. Thank you for that. And then Robin said, back to the title, I think, shouldn't the title be using pulse oximeters rather than best practices for pulse oximeters, or best practice use of pulse oximeters? Any views on this?
Yeah, that's what I meant, because it's, if you think best practice for pulse oximeters, to me, I think, because I come from a medical device background, it's just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to make a good pulse oximeter. But really here, it's the people who are using them. So I don't know. I don't know if adding an extra word is worthwhile, but.
I agree.
You agree with that, Sandy? Best practice use of pulse oximeters?
My background also bachelor, master, PhD, biomedical engineering, and I didn't find that much difference. But yes, use might be clarified, but I got it from the very first time. And English is not my first or second
So you
language.
could say, because I'm sure you're short for words and space, best practices for pulse oximeter use.
Okay, well, how about that? Best practices for pulse oximeter use. I'm sure you could fit that.
Yeah, that's good.
How about we say best practices for pulse oximetry? So pulse oximetry would capture the use as well instead of adding an extra word.
Well, the posters are directed at people using these things correctly. So I think everybody understands what we're trying to mean. It's all like splitting the hairs on the top of a pin.
Yeah, okay. But I think the best practices for pulse oximeter use, I think you'll fit that in there with not too much change. So I think the use is important.
Unfortunately, excuse me, fortunately, it's a very small word. Just 3 letters. I think, yeah, we can fit that in.
That's what I was trying to do.
You're going to lose an S and center it. It'll be fine, I think, Rebecca. It'll fit right in there.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, great. So we got a new title.
And then instead of optimal use, can we say, and I'm throwing this out for discussion, can you say, get a good reading? Right? And where to place the probe, how to place the probe, how to obtain a good, well, it says in the bottom, but really that whole column is about getting a good measurement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know what optimal use means. Is that making a good decision when you tell me what your SAT is? Is that me understanding how much uncertainty is involved? Is it placing the probe properly? Is it tightening it up or changing it every 4 hours? All those things are, quote, optimal use issues.
Yeah, we're going to have, well, how does that, do people feel optimal use is too vague? As they likes it?
What? I thought from a plain language perspective, you like to have short directive sentences,
Oh, yeah.
right?
No,
Verb,
I know.
verb,
Yeah,
subject.
Yeah. How to get a good reading.
Yeah. Or just get a good reading.
And Mike's saying the titles can actually be edited by the user when they build their infographic. So they can edit that. Which title? The red ones. Yeah, the red tiles are editable. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, so we could have a list of 5 red titles on the right, and they can pick the one they want. Make it as complex.
Yeah. Okay, that's important to know. So we just have to provide something generic and accurate there. Let's look at the other titles while we're on titles. Probe types. Can we just make sure sometimes we're capitalizing, Rebecca, both words, sometimes we're not. So just choose one and be consistent. So sometimes it's, both, like T is not capitalized. What do you say? Uppercase. And sometimes they are, the second word is. So just make sure it's consistent. But probe types, it's clear to everyone. I don't think do we need to repeat it as well? Like when you've got probe types in the orange box, do you need to repeat it again underneath?
Probably not. It's just that some sections had subtitles and some don't. So I think we can it just means we'll remove that subtitle or subsection in the boxes where it's not needed. We can just take out that level of text.
Yeah, that'd be great. So everyone at probe types is clear. Choosing an oximeter, that sounds clear to me, but people should scream if they think it can be made clearer. Neonates. We're going to change the known limitations box. It'll have a new name. And the best practices for clinical decisions. I mean, how is that different from optimal use? Yeah, Mike's saying that should change. Best practices for clinical decisions should change.
The optimal use is about the physical placement and alignment of the probe. Best practices is decision making. Said as an engineer.
All right, so it's just about clinical decision making. You can take out the best practices. The whole thing is about best practices. That's the name of the whole poster. SPO2 decisions is Mike's.
I was just going to say, I mean, the title could be considerations for clinical decisions, and then you don't need a separate title underneath it.
Yeah, which is what we need to
bullets.
do. That's exactly the kind of edits we need to make, is take out the necessity for a second title to reduce text.
And I think the same on neonates, right? You don't need considerations for neonates.
No, right.
That can just be the titles, considerations for neonates.
Yeah, Rebecca's getting all this. Yeah, for sure. And Mike's got a suggestion, SPO2 for clinical decisions or, okay. Myths
And
will
then
go.
and care and handling, sorry, do you want to make that cables and sensors handling? Or cable and sensor handling instead
No,
of
it's
care and
bigger than
handling?
that. It's because we're collapsing those two into one. So it'll be care and handling, and we'll probably will need subtitles in that one. We'll need 3. And we need to shorten it. So it'll be one tile with cables and sensors, power supplies, and cleaners.
Could you zoom in on the power supplies, please? I just wanted to see what that says quick.
Mhm.
Okay,
Is it okay?
yeah,
Okay. Okay. So good. So we've tidied some of that up. Where we can get we want them on one line only. We want one, just a, orange line, just one. And if where we can remove the need for a subtitle in the dark blue, we should do so. Sometimes we can't. And then we'll do a final edit of the text. Okay. All right. So Rebecca, anything else you need from us before you go into a final edit?
I don't think so. I'm really feeling great. I think we're in great shape here. We have a format. We can definitely fine tune from here. Yeah, this is great.
Sandy's saying cleaning instead of cleaners. Because yeah, cleaning is better than cleaners. Cleaning, yeah. So you got that? We'll save all this chat. But cleaning. Okay. Mike, anything, I know we've had a tough time hearing you, but anything else you want to raise? Can you just drop it in the chat so we make sure we've picked up all your issues? All good? Okay. Anyone else want to add final comments? Fifi from the internal team, Daryl. Daryl, you put a comment up at the top we didn't get on newborn. Let's just make sure we get that. Do you want to voice that over, Daryl?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't. I was just about to actually put in the chat again, but I was
No,
thinking.
I'm sorry. I did see it.
No, you're good. You're good. So I was thinking because between the pediatric and the adult graphics, there's really no difference. So I was considering just having the neonates as a permanent box and then only having one like choose your own box for the second box, which will make it a pediatric graphic. Otherwise, the only difference is kind of just the picture. So I was just curious what the group thought about that.
So you want the neonates to be a permanent setting?
Yeah. I just feel like it should be, if we're gonna label it as a pediatric graphic, I feel like there should be something permanent in the graphic that points to that.
Interesting. Okay. So Daryl's saying the first one is for anyone dealing with kids, neonates. Second one is for adults, and there should be something on the pediatric one that signifies it is in fact pediatric. So you don't get a choice about that. How do people feel about that? That means you just get one choice. You could add one tile. Unless we fiddle around with the sizing. No comments. Mark, you were a huge advocate for this neonatal tile. We have it because of you. What do you feel about it being kind of compulsory set into the thing?
Leith, I'm on the fence. I think there may be some pediatric facilities that may not see neonates, so it may be superfluous. So I'm still happy having it as an optional tile, but
Anyone else feel strongly? Okay, we're gonna have to take it internally, Daryl, and just bat it around a bit. I see Robin's also asked about what if people don't have the option to make their own? Can they get them? And Mike's saying there will be pre-made versions you can just download. So if you haven't got time or capacity to make your own, you can just download pre-made. That's great. Okay. Any other final comments before we sum up our to-do list? Mike's giving an example in the chat of what the pre-mades look like. Okay, so I'm going to sum up for us. So we are going to do another cut of the text to simplify it. And you, if you have appetite and time, go into the Google link, it's in the chat, and have another go and pull out things and suggest things in using the Google document so we can see the changes you're making. We can all do that, or some of us will do that, but the internal team will certainly take another look, and then Rebecca's team will go through and make sure it's simple, plain English. We'll play around with the imagery and the boxes as we discussed. So the next version you get will have the set boxes, the images will be in the box. We'll take a look at Azadeh's images if she wants to send through some that are different and see if they can be accommodated. And then we'll come back to you with what we hope at the end of July. We'll come back to you with what we hope is the final architecture, and then it's going to be tested, so it's not the end of the story. Yeah, I think it's looking beautifully. Rebecca, I want to thank you and your team. I think it looks great, and it's fascinating. This idea of moving tiles around and having some bespoke do-it-yourself element, I think, is really creative. And Mike, of course, who's leading all of this, so huge thanks. So let's leave it at that unless there's any final comments. And we'll come back to you. I think Fifi will schedule a call the last week of July, something like that, to have a look and unveil what we hope is close to the final product. Great. Thank you, everyone.